Hey, what's up guys? Today's video is about state design pattern. We will see when to use this pattern and how to implement it. This pattern comes under behavioral design pattern category. We will understand this by refactoring a piece of existing code that should have been implemented using state design pattern. But before that, make sure to subscribe the channel and drop in comments for all the future videos in C Sharp and other .NET technologies. With this, let's get started. Let's quickly see the definition as per Gang of 4 book. The definition says, allow an object to alter its behavior when its internal state changes. The object will appear to change its class. Let's discuss this in little detail. As a software developer, we have to come across a lot of scenarios where we have to go through the changing states of an object in a software system. Like, for example, say a package delivery system. The states could be package ordered, then the object state might change to delivered to courier office, then to dispatch from courier office, and finally received by the client state. Similarly, in shopping cart system, we can have states like new order, processing, cancelled, and order processing completed state. Another example could be movie ticket booking system, where the states could be guest user state, which is the user who has not logged into your site. Then once the user logged in, the state could be new booking and then could move to complete booking state, and if user wishes, the object could even move to cancel state. It means, in short, we have states for something that is changeable, like as seen here for booking movie tickets. You launch the site as a guest user, then you log in and your object state gets into new booking state. From there you move into complete booking state and so on. Now, staying in these states, you can have multiple behaviors like login, new booking, show booking, cancel booking, and log out. And now, with these many behaviors, depending on the states, we have to take a call on how our system should behave on each of these states. Like, if the user is not logged in, it means user is in guest user state and tries to do a new booking, then how the system should behave. Similarly, if user clicks on cancel booking but it is still in new booking state, then how it should behave. Ah, looks like you as a system developer needs to do a lot of permutation and combination and provide appropriate logic for each behavior corresponding to each state. Now all this permutation and combination will basically end up with lots of if and else. Something like this system. I have iBooking system and has these following behaviors like login, new booking, show booking, cancel booking, and log out. I have implemented this system in a class called booking system. If you see here, I have created three class level boolean variable here. This is just a dummy implementation. If I really try to implement this system in this way, then I might end up with several boolean variables to basically check all the states. But for now, let's see this class and try to understand the problem with this code. So, this is my login method, which calls a repository to authenticate itself. If user is authenticated, then we set isNewState to true. I have here new booking method where I check if user is logged in, and then I check again if the state is in new, then go ahead and book the ticket. And once done, set the boolean variable isTicketBooked to true. Similarly, I have show booking where again I am checking boolean fields to take a call, and similar is the case with cancel booking and log out. The summary is that there are a lot of boolean fields and you are setting it in one method and taking a call based on that in another method. This really makes your code fragile, which means in future if any other developer works on your system, then first of all it will really take him long time to understand the current system, as he has to understand all this permutation and combination on the basis of which you have written this code. And might be possible that he will try to implement something and by mistake reassign these variables to some other values, and these changes will impact existing system. And adding to all these problems, as and when your application enhances, you might have more states. And more state means more dependencies, and which means more conditional statements. And these dependencies will considerably increase the time of changing and managing the state values instead of focusing on the behavior of the implementation. And with this all, it would be more difficult to manage and debug your code. Okay, now let's see how the state design pattern helps. The state design pattern basically minimizes conditional complexities, allowing you to manage the state without the need of boolean fields and countless if and else statements. Also, by implementing it in this kind of use case that we have discussed, the code remains cleaner without many if else statements, resulting in code that is more modular, easy to read and maintain, less difficult to debug, and more extensible. Okay, so when to use this pattern? This pattern is suitable to use when we have an object that moves through two or more internal states. Like we discussed the booking object, where behavior of the booking object changes with each internal state change. Now, let's quickly see the UML before refactoring our code to state design pattern. The state design pattern has three main components. First is context. Context is the thing that can have states, or we can even say it provides a means for changing the state. This class is exposed to the client and has public methods which are called by the client. In our movie ticket booking scenario, it could be login, book ticket, show result, cancel booking, or even logout. The class also has private field to track the current state of the context. This field will be updated by the concrete state class that we will discuss in a while. Now, since context is the thing that can have states, we must have states as well, right? So, we have second component called state. But the state should be either an abstract class or an interface, because we want to have multiple different states. It means the context has many different states like login, new booking, cancel booking, etc. All these methods receives the context object, as after performing the required behavior, it will call a method in the context to update the current state field in the context. Let's come to the third component. Now we have different actions like new booking, cancel booking, show booking, and all of the different states need to respond to all of these different actions as per their requirement. So that means state is an interface of which we have a number of concrete implementations. That is where we have concrete state A and concrete state B. We can definitely have many such states. Now, let's do a short recap of what we have done till now. We have looked into the definition with few examples like software scenarios having different states, and discussed about how these different states brings in lot of if and else statements. I have also walked you through the existing not refactored code base, which contains lot of boolean fields which makes the system very much fragile or bug prone. Then finally, I have explained the UML. Now, let's refactor our code using state design pattern. I have already created a console application called movie ticket booking refactored and copied the repository classes and the iBooking system interface. I will not go through the repository classes. It just contains an interface iRepository with methods like get all movies, get booked movies, and all. Implemented this interface in movie repository class, added default movies in a dictionary. You can see here the movie names. These are some of my favorite movies: Titanic, Castaway, and Saving Private Ryan, and implemented the interface methods down here. These are two DTOs used in the application, movie and booked movie, and a class that returns a single instance of our repository class. I have the same interface that was there in our not refactored code. Now let's go ahead and implement the same functionality using state design pattern. If you remember, in our not refactored code, we had the class called booking system, which was implemented using a lot of boolean fields to track states. Now we don't need that class. Instead, we will create our context class. Let me create that class and come back. So this is my context class. It contains all the states, that's login, book ticket, show result, cancel, and log out. Let me create a method to set the next state. Public void next state. It will take iBooking system, and let's set our private field. All these methods down here just calls the appropriate method based on the current state. Now, as discussed earlier, context is a thing that has states. So we must have states as well, right? And what is our state? That's iBooking system. As discussed earlier, the state should receive the context object, as it has to call next method to update the state in context. So let me add context object to all the states. Let me pass the object. Now we need our concrete states, where we will define how the different states will respond to all the different actions performed by the user via the context class. Let's create a folder called states. Let's create our first state as guest user state. Let me create two more state classes, new booking state, and the third state as complete state. Let me implement these classes and come back. So let's go through our guest user state class. I have implemented our state interface, that's iBooking system. Now if the user is in guest user state and chooses the option to log in, then it will try to authenticate first. If authentication is not successful, then it will just print login failed message and remain in the same state. If authentication is successful, then it will print a message user logged in and call the context to set the new state as new booking state. Now since this is guest user state, and in this state if user tries to cancel booking, it will print a message you must log in first, because since the user has not logged in, so he or she will not have any booked ticket, which ultimately means that he or she cannot cancel ticket, right? Similarly, if user choose an option of new booking, then again it will say you must log in. Similar is the case with show booking and log out. Now let's see new booking state. So if the user is in new booking state and tries to book a ticket, then it will book the ticket. And then once booking process completes, then sets the state to complete state. Of course, we can have more logics here, like if the booking fails and all. But for now, let's keep it simple. If user choose cancel option, then it will check if there are booked tickets. If yes, then it gives a warning message. Are you sure you want to cancel the ticket? And if the response is yes, then it removes all the bookings and sets the state back to new booking state. Now since user is in new booking state and he can be in this state only if he has already logged in, so it gives a message you are already logged in. So booking, it shows the bookings. I have created a helper class just to show the bookings in console. I am just changing few text colors and few dashed lines. Logout, it just sets the state back to guest user state. Similarly, I have created complete state. The codes are self-explanatory. I will just scroll through. Please do let me know in comments if you need this code base. Okay, let's go back to our context class and set the initial state in the constructor. Let's set the initial state as guest user state. So we are all done. Now if you see our booking context class and compare it with previous booking system class, you can realize that how simple our booking context class is. And most importantly, in entire system, we have not used even a single boolean field. Now let's add few client-side code in our program.cs class. Here I am calling a private method, now showing movies. It just gets the movie from the repository and displays it. Then I have given all the options to the user. Then a while loop to read the option and call appropriate actions in the context. That's it. We are done with our state design pattern implementation. Let's do a quick recap before running our application. We have created our context class called booking context. That's the class that contains our states. And it provides a means to change the state. Next state is the method called by the concrete state classes to set the next state. And in constructor, we are setting the initial state to guest user state. Now if you see our state folder, we have defined three concrete states here. That's guest user state, new booking state, and complete state. All these concrete states implements our iBooking system interface, which is nothing but the application states. Now these concrete states gives the implementation of how each behavior should act when it is invoked by the user in certain state. Like when you are in guest user state and you try to do a new booking, how the system should behave, or you are in a new booking state and you try to show booking and how the application should behave. And finally return some client code to call the behaviors. Now let's run our application and see. Let's put few breakpoints. Let's run it. So we get our first screen. It shows now showing movies. Let's choose new booking option. It comes to our context class. So what is the current state? It's in guest user state. Remember, we are setting the initial state as guest user. It goes to our concrete implementation of our guest user state class book ticket method. And what we have said here, if the user is in guest user state and tries to book a ticket, show the message, you must log in first. Without a state pattern, we would have written an if-else statement to achieve this behavior. Let's press F5. So we get the message. Let's choose show result option. It again goes to context class. The state is still guest user and hence we want to display the same message. Now let's choose option 1, login. It goes to login method, authenticates the user, prints a message in console, and sets the next state to new booking state. See, now the state has changed to new booking state. Now let's do a new booking. Enter the movie number. Let's say Titanic. Let's enter 2 tickets. So, booking completed and it sets the state to complete state. Now if you choose option 3, it shows the book ticket. Let's select logout option. Here I just set the state back to guest user. Now if you try to show result, it gives the message you must log in. So looks like our application is working perfectly without lot of if else block. Do let me know if you need this code base. I will share it via GitHub. I am not debugging all the states here, but I think if you do it yourself would help. That's all for today. I hope this was helpful. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel and drop in your comments for all the future videos on C# and other technologies. Thanks.